The Compass of Destiny. Princess Elara loved the sea and eagerly joined her family on a royal voyage across the vast ocean. Standing at the ship's bow, she dreamed of distant lands and grand adventures. One day, "I'll explore the world beyond the horizon," she told her younger brother, excitement in her voice. But that night, everything changed. A violent storm struck, its winds howling and waves towering over the ship. Crew members shouted as they fought to keep the vessel steady. But the storm was too strong. Elara clung to the railing, refusing to leave despite her mother's cries to stay below deck. Suddenly, a massive wave crashed over the ship, sweeping her into the cold, roaring sea. When she woke, the storm was gone. She lay on a quiet beach, the morning sun warming her face. Her gown was torn, and her memories felt hazy. Villagers from a nearby settlement found her and offered food and shelter. But they had no idea she was royalty. Unsure of who to trust, Elara kept her royal identity a secret. Stranded on the unfamiliar island, she vowed to survive and find her way home, unaware of the challenges that lay ahead. In the neighboring kingdom of Arendelle, Prince Kael stood in the grand hall, listening as news of Princess Elara's disappearance reached him. Though he had met Elara only briefly at royal gatherings, her spirited nature had left an impression. Now, the thought of her lost at sea troubled him deeply. Determined to help, Kael visited the palace's ancient library, where he found a legend about an enchanted compass said to guide its bearer to anything, or anyone, lost. With the king's reluctant blessing, Kael set out to find the magical artifact. His journey took him through winding mountain paths and dense forests, where whispers of the compass's existence led him to an old hermit. The hermit, a guardian of the compass, warned Kael, "This tool obeys only a pure heart. It will test you, Prince, before it reveals the path." Taking the compass in his hands, Kael felt its weight, not just in gold, but in responsibility. As he watched the needle slowly spin, he knew his journey to find Princess Elara was just beginning. On the island, Elara woke each day to the sound of waves crashing on the shore and the hum of village life. The kind villagers who had found her treated her as one of their own. But none knew she was the lost princess of Eldoria, with no clear memory of her royal past. Elara threw herself into helping them, fishing, gathering fruits, and tending to the fields. Despite her efforts to adapt, flashes of her former life haunted her. She sometimes dreamt of a grand castle, her mother's warm embrace, and a crown she didn't quite understand. When she mentioned these dreams, the villagers dismissed them as the imagination of a girl who had lost everything in the storm. One day, Elara met an old woman in the village who seemed to know more than she let on. "You have the heart of a leader," the woman told her, eyes twinkling. "But your path back to where you belong will not be easy." Elara didn't fully understand the cryptic words, but they sparked something inside her, a quiet determination to uncover the truth. Though the villagers had become her friends, Elara couldn't shake the feeling that she was meant for something greater. Prince Kael's journey led him to the edge of the Forest of Whispers, where he hoped the enchanted compass would guide him to Princess Elara. Holding the compass in his hands, he watched as the needle spun wildly before finally settling on a direction. With his heart set, Kael entered the dense woods. The forest was unlike anything Kael had ever seen. Shadows danced eerily among the towering trees, and whispers floated through the air, as if the forest itself were alive. The compass glowed faintly, its needle pointing steadily ahead. But the path was fraught with challenges. Illusions appeared before Kael, visions of gold, fame, and easy shortcuts, each designed to tempt him into straying from his mission. Kael pressed on, refusing to be distracted. This isn't about me, he reminded himself. It's about finding Elara. When he reached the forest's heart, a glowing silver tree stood before him, its branches shimmering with magic. As Kael approached, the tree bestowed a single silver leaf into his hand, imbuing him with protective magic for the journey ahead. Emerging from the forest, Kael glanced at the compass, now glowing brighter than before. Its unwavering needle gave him hope that he was closer to finding Elara. He tightened his grip on the leaf and vowed to follow the compass, no matter where it led. Elara adjusted to life in the village, but her dreams grew more vivid each night. She saw flashes of a grand hall, a crown, and her parents' faces, images that left her feeling both comforted and restless. Meanwhile, in the Forest of Whispers, Prince Kael faced trials as the enchanted compass continued to guide him. The forest was a maze of illusions. At every turn, Kael was confronted by scenes of his deepest fears and greatest desires. One moment, he saw his kingdom in ruins, and the next, he was offered the chance to turn back to safety and glory. But Kael knew these visions were tricks meant to test him. Stay true, he whispered to himself, gripping the silver leaf the forest had given him. With each step forward, he felt the compass's pull grow stronger, as if it knew his heart was aligned with his mission. Finally, Kael emerged from the forest's grasp. Weary but resolute, he had proven himself worthy of the compass's guidance. As its needle spun and pointed firmly toward the south, Kael felt a renewed determination. Somewhere beyond the forest lay Princess Elara, and he was closer to finding her than ever before. In the quiet village, Elara's sense of unease grew stronger. Though she had made a home among the kind villagers, flashes of her past began to surface more frequently. One day, while exploring a hidden grove near the edge of the island, she stumbled upon an old, overgrown chest buried beneath the roots of a tree. Inside, she found a golden locket. When she opened it, a tiny portrait of herself as a child stared back. Memories surged through her mind, her parents' loving faces, the halls of a grand castle, and the royal crest of Eldoria. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "I'm a princess." When she showed the locket to the villagers, they were skeptical. To them, she was just a girl who had survived a shipwreck. "Dreams and trinkets don't make you royalty," one villager said kindly. Elara turned to the old woman who had always seemed to know more than she let on. The woman handed her a small, glowing pendant. "The truth is in your heart, child," she said softly. "This will guide you when the time comes." Elara clutched the pendant, her resolve hardening. She didn't know how or when, but she knew she had to find her way back home. Prince Kael followed the compass's steady pull through treacherous mountains, its glowing needle pointing south. The journey had been arduous, But Kael's determination never wavered. One evening, as he made his way through a narrow mountain pass, he was ambushed by a group of bandits. "Hand over your valuables, Prince," the leader sneered, his eyes fixed on the golden compass in Kael's hand. Kael gripped the compass tightly and glanced at the silver leaf he carried, remembering the protective magic it held. When the bandits lunged, Kael acted quickly. The leaf shimmered as he held it up, creating a burst of light that temporarily blinded his attackers. Using the distraction, Kael outmaneuvered them, his sword skills honed from years of training. As the bandits fled in disarray, Kael rummaged through their abandoned loot and found something astonishing, a golden crest bearing the royal emblem of Eldoria. His heart raced. It was proof that Elara, or at least her family's possessions, had passed through this area. Renewed with purpose, Kael pressed onward, the compass glowing brighter than ever. He knew he was getting closer to finding the lost princess. Far from the island and Kael's journey, Duke Varek, a cunning noble from Eldoria, sat in his dimly lit study, plotting his rise to power. It was he who had orchestrated the storm that separated Elara from her family. With the princess presumed dead, Varek positioned himself as a trusted advisor to the grieving royal family, all while quietly gathering allies to seize the throne. When rumors reached him of Prince Kael's quest and the enchanted compass leading him to Elara, Varek's calm facade cracked. "If that boy finds her, my plans will crumble," he muttered darkly. Summoning his most loyal spies, he issued orders. "Follow Kael. Slow him down. And if you find the princess, eliminate her." The spies set off, their loyalty bound by Varek's promises of wealth and power. Meanwhile, Varek began preparing for the final stage of his coup. With the royal family distracted and their armies spread thin, he was certain victory was within his grasp. But deep down, Varek knew Elara's survival could ruin everything. He underestimated her strength, Kael's resolve, and the magic that bound their destinies together. On the island, Elara stood at the edge of the hidden grove, clutching the glowing pendant given to her by the old woman. Her dreams had become sharper, her memories more vivid, and the weight of the locket around her neck felt heavier than ever. Deep within, she knew the truth was close. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Elara returned to the grove, following an unshakable pull from the pendant. In the grove's center, a small pool of water shimmered with an unnatural light. As she leaned closer, her reflection shifted, showing her younger self wearing a crown, standing in a grand hall beside her parents. The vision overwhelmed her, flooding her mind with memories, her father's strong voice, her mother's warm smile, and the crest of Eldoria adorning their robes. Tears filled her eyes. "I am the princess of Eldoria," she whispered. Returning to the village, Elara shared her memories and the pendant's magic with the old woman, who nodded knowingly. "Your path is clear now, child," she said. "But it will not be easy. You must leave the island and reclaim what is yours." Elara felt a mix of fear and resolve. She was no longer just a lost girl, she was Princess Elara, and she needed to find her way home. As Prince Kael followed the compass's glow, its needle guided him to a small coastal village. He arrived weary but determined. certain he was close to finding Elara. The villagers eyed him curiously, unsure of the royal stranger, until the old woman approached. "You've come for her," she said, her eyes glinting with understanding. "Follow me." Kael's heart pounded as he was led to the grove where Elara often went to reflect. There, he found her standing beneath the trees, the pendant's light shimmering faintly around her neck. For a moment, he was struck by the sight, her grace, her strength, and the royal presence she seemed unaware she exuded. "Elara," he called softly. She turned, her eyes widening, though she didn't recognize him at first. The crest he carried, bearing her family's emblem, sparked something in her. Memories surfaced, and she realized this stranger was not just an ally, but someone who had been searching for her against all odds. Kael explained everything, her family's search, the danger posed by Duke Varek, and the enchanted compass that had led him to her. Elara, now fully aware of her identity and the threat to her kingdom, felt a surge of determination. "We have to return to Eldoria," she said firmly. "My people need me." Kael nodded. "Then we leave at dawn." As they prepared for the journey, the two realized their fates were intertwined, not just as prince and princess, but as partners in a mission that would test their courage, loyalty, and growing bond. At dawn, Elara and Kael set sail on a small boat gifted by the villagers. The ocean stretched before them, vast and calm, but both knew the journey would not be easy. Armed with the enchanted compass and Elara's glowing pendant, they braced themselves for what lay ahead. As night fell, the sky darkened, and a familiar sense of foreboding filled the air. Clouds gathered rapidly, and the wind howled. Duke Varek, desperate to stop them, had unleashed dark magic to conjure another deadly storm. The waves rose high, crashing against their small boat, and lightning illuminated the terror in the sky. Kael gripped the tiller, fighting to keep the boat steady. Elara clutched the pendant, its light flickering with each wave that threatened to capsize them. "The compass!" Kael shouted. "It will guide us through." Holding the compass tightly, Kael followed its glowing needle, steering the boat toward a path of calmer waters. Meanwhile, Elara's pendant began to glow brighter, emitting a warmth that seemed to counter the storm's icy winds. Realizing its power, she held it high, its light pushing back the darkness. Together, they navigated through the chaos, their teamwork and courage unshakable. After what felt like hours, the storm began to weaken. The waves calmed, and the sky cleared as dawn broke on the horizon. Exhausted but triumphant, Elara and Kael stared at the shore ahead. The kingdom of Eldoria was in sight. The storm had tested their strength, but their resolve had only grown stronger. They were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them on land. As Elara and Kael stepped onto Eldorian soil, they found the kingdom in turmoil. Duke Varek had seized control, declaring himself regent in Elara's absence. Loyal citizens were silenced, and the royal palace was heavily guarded by his forces. Determined to reclaim her throne, Elara rallied a small band of loyalists, many of whom had been waiting for her return. Word of the princess's survival spread quickly, igniting hope among the people. With Kael's strategic mind and the enchanted compass's guidance, they devised a plan to infiltrate the palace. Under the cover of darkness, they made their move. Kael led a group to distract the guards, while Elara, with the glowing pendant around her neck, slipped into the throne room. There, she confronted Duke Varek, who sneered at her arrival. "You should have stayed lost, child," he spat, summoning dark magic to strike her down. But Elara stood firm, the pendant's light shielding her from his attacks. With a surge of courage, she called upon the memories of her family and her people, channeling the pendant's magic into a powerful force. The light overwhelmed Varek's dark magic, breaking his hold on the kingdom. As the battle raged in the palace, Kael and the loyalists defeated the remaining guards, securing victory. Cornered and powerless, Duke Varek was captured and imprisoned. His reign of terror ended. Standing in the throne room, Elara reclaimed her rightful place, with Kael by her side and the people cheering her return. She vowed to restore peace and justice to Eldoria. The kingdom had endured, and its true queen was home at last. The day of Elara's coronation was one of celebration across Eldoria. The streets were filled with joyful citizens. Banners flew high, and the air buzzed with music and laughter. As Elara stepped into the throne room, now restored to its former glory, she felt the weight of her journey and the responsibility that lay ahead. Crowned as queen, Elara pledged to rule with fairness, compassion, and strength. Her first act was to honor the villagers who had cared for her during her time on the island, ensuring they would always have the kingdom's protection and support. Beside her stood Kael, who had proven himself not just a noble prince, but a trusted ally and dear friend. As they looked out over the cheering crowd, their bond had deepened into something undeniable. Together, they vowed to strengthen the ties between their kingdoms, ensuring peace and unity for generations to come. With the enchanted compass safely stored and the magical pendant hanging near her heart, Elara knew she had been forever changed. The trials she endured had shaped her into a stronger, wiser leader, and she was ready to guide her kingdom into a brighter future. As the sun set over Eldoria, the kingdom celebrated not only the return of their queen but the beginning of a new era, one built on hope, courage, and the enduring power of unity.